The paralyzed millionaire Philippe is struggling with boredom in the society of Paris aristocrats, and is looking for the meaning of life in high art, and the unemployed Driss from the slums thoughtlessly enjoys life, drinking with friends and running for skirts. By the will of fate, they collide, and this meeting becomes the beginning of something very important in the fate of both men. A black car sails steadily through the streets of Paris at night. An older bearded man and his driver are sitting in it. Suddenly, the guy abruptly hits the gas and jumps through a red light. He skillfully swerves between the rows, pulling ahead in the flow of cars. His extreme driving skills are noticed by the police, and they give chase. Passenger Philippe praises Driss, and they argue for €100 whether he will get away from the chase. They are driven into a dead end, and Driss offers a new bet that the skirmish will end not with an arrest, but on the contrary with an honorary escort. The police twist the guy and demand that Philip get out of the car, but the man is paralyzed and cannot do it. The disabled person begins to stimulate epilepsy attacks, and Driss blames the police for detaining a terminally ill person who urgently needs to see a doctor. Frightened inspectors are offered to escort them to the nearest hospital. The driver turns on the music, and the motorcade flies forward while the men cheerfully shake their heads, singing along to the vocalist. The police leave them at the hospital. The heroes light up and move off before the arrival of the doctors. Retrospective. In a posh mansion, Philip and his secretary Magali interview applicants for the position of nurse. Expensive paintings hang on the walls, Fabergé eggs are on the shelves, and the same Driss is sitting in the queue. It turns out that candidates are competing in who will be more boring for the employer. Driss can't stand it and breaks in without a queue, and instead of sycophancy, he immediately begins to joke, be rude and drive up to the secretary. He does not need a job, but on the contrary, he collects 3 signatures of refusal to receive unemployment benefits, but Philip replies that he cannot sign this document, because he is paralyzed to the neck, so he offers to come for the paper the next day. Driss agrees and returns home to the sleeping area. He greets friends drinking among the stone jungle, and goes up to an apartment with narrow corridors, crowded with chattering children. Even in the bathroom there is no privacy. Driss also notices that one of his younger brothers has gotten involved with a bad company. In the evening, Driss' mother comes. The guy gives her a Fabergé egg stolen from the mansion. His mother replies to him that he hasn't shown up for 6 months and now comes with a kinder surprise. The woman is so angry that her son does not help the family and lives with her as in a hotel, which drives him away. Driss meets with friends in the alley. They drink, eat cheap food and smoke. When everyone leaves, the guy has nowhere to go, and he wanders through the night district. He only manages to get warm and get some sleep on the subway train. At the appointed time, Driss appears at the gates of the mansion. Ivanhoe, who performs the duties of a butler, meets him and takes him inside the house, showing him the bedroom, which will be occupied by the boss's nurse under the contract. Driss is impressed by the size of the bed, as well as a chic private bathroom in which no one will disturb him. He takes the paper from Philip with the cherished signature, which guarantees the benefit. The man offers the guy a trial period of a month, and bets that he will not survive 2 weeks. After a night of vagrancy, the guy does not think for a long time, but he does not manage to sleep on a soft bed. Time to work. The masseuse shows Driss, who is falling asleep on the move, how to stretch the muscles of a disabled person, and how to properly seat him in a chair. Disgusted, the guy also learns to wash the boss's hair, and puts on compression stockings for him. Now it was Philip's turn to make fun. Driss begs, at least not to make him wipe the man's ass. This question is postponed for later. Philip's daughter also lives in the house, with whom Driss periodically encounters. Eliza behaves brazenly, and Driss somehow scares her off with a guy when they come to kiss on the roof of the mansion. The new assistant learns how to feed the boss properly, parses his letters with him, and of course enjoys luxury, and stares at Magali. He does not always perform the task responsibly, and Ayana even notices a butterfly knife and a folding baton in his things. It is not yet clear what can be expected from this. When it comes time to go outside the mansion, Driss refuses to drag Philip into a ridiculous minibus for transporting disabled people. It's just humiliating, considering that there is a cool sports car nearby, so the choice is obvious. The heroes visit an exhibition where Philip is looking for a painting for €30,000. Driss wonders what's so valuable about her. It's just a red blob on a white background. Philip retorts that art costs so much because it is the only way to leave an eternal mark in this world. Driss smokes outside while Philip meets with an old acquaintance, who made inquiries. It turns out that his new employee served 6 months in prison for breaking into a jewelry store, but that's not what matters to Philip. Driss does not sycophant and does not pity him, but treats him as an equal. So he is ready to close his eyes to his past. The assistant does not waste time, and lures the secretary to his room. He wants to show her his bath, and offers to wash. To his surprise, the girl agrees, unbuttoning the button of her blouse, but this is just a joke, and she is in a hurry not to wash, but rather to get away from the joyful guy. In the evening, Magali writes down a poem for Philip, composed by him. This is part of a romantic letter that he sends to the girl Eleanor. Driss eavesdrops on everything through the walkie-talkie and Ayana will get him for it. A brusque guy, and he confuses her with questions about lovers, and woos a local gardener who looks at women. At night, Driss hears strange noises on the radio, and goes up to check on Philip. He finds the man in a deplorable state. He has a fever and difficulty breathing. Driss is on duty in the room all night, and during the next attack takes him out for a walk on the street. These attacks are called phantom pains, and there is no cure for them. Men see beautiful girls, and Driss asks how Philip gets pleasure. During the next pain, the guy offers the boss to smoke something. He is surprised, but takes a few puffs. The heroes move to the restaurant. Philip talks about his wife Alice, whom he loved very much. Love was tragic. The woman had 5 miscarriages, and then she died of the disease, but they had an adopted daughter, Eliza, whom Driss met in the mansion. In his youth, Philip was engaged in extreme sports, and was a risky guy, but in the end he was paralyzed due to an unsuccessful paragliding flight. Driss' probation period has just come to an end and Philip congratulates him, but also asks him to return the stolen Fabergé egg. This is a gift from his late wife, who gave eggs for every anniversary of their life together. The guy does not admit to the deed, although he does it so clumsily that he gives himself away. Driss meets with his sister, whom he instructed to find an egg in his mother's house and rescues a troubled brother from the police who sells illegal substances. Philip dictates another letter to his lady of the heart. Driss is admitted to the process and inserts his caustic comments. This time the poems seem to him too pretentious and incomprehensible. He is shocked that the boss has never seen this woman, although he has been in correspondence with her for 6 months. Philip replies that a deep spiritual connection with a person is much more important to him. Driss grabs the letters and begins to open them, which angers Philip. He finds the phone number of this Eleanor, and immediately dials her despite the increasingly angry orders of the boss to stop. The men continue to argue while the girl is hanging on the wire, but in the end Philip gives in and does not get off the phone for the next few days. Eleanor says that she is completely real and wants to get a photo of Philip in a letter, which worries him very much. Driss calms the boss. His wealth outweighs all the disadvantages, and more importantly, the girl reads and responds to his letters and poems for 6 months. The heroes go to the opera house. The performance begins, and the singing tree amuses Driss so much that he interferes with the audience around with his laughter. After returning home, the men choose a photo to send to Eleanor. Philip is worried and thinks to attach a photo in which he is not paralyzed yet, so as not to scare the girl away. Driss convinces him not to do this and puts in a more relevant photo, but as soon as the assistant leaves, Philip still asks Ayana to change the pictures. At this time, Philip's daughter breaks into Driss and demands cigarettes. Eliza distracts him from painting, and this behavior pisses the guy off. He goes to Philip and asks him to show paternal care, offering to give the impudent girl a belt with his own hands, since the boss is paralyzed. Ayana nods silently. Philip will be more concerned that his assistant has started drawing, but he also undertakes to reason with his daughter, though without physical abuse. Driss does not waste time in vain, and in their free time they experiment with an easel. With Philip, they spend a lot of time on walks and add horsepower to the frail engine of the stroller. Philip's birthday is coming and Yana gathers his whole family. Philip calls such a gathering serving his duty. On occasion, a whole orchestra is invited to the mansion, but Eliza sits in her room and does not come out to the guests. Driss finds her in upset feelings. It turns out she broke up with Baston and even swallowed pills, fortunately not dangerous at all. The guy left her and insulted her, so she offers Driss to teach him a lesson, and is even ready to pay. Meanwhile, Philip, with a smile on his face, fills the price of Driss' painting. His friend hesitates, but clearly seriously regards the offer of 11,000 euros. Driss finds out from Ayana that Magali sometimes gossips about him and recently quarreled with a guy. He is full of hope. Philip unsuccessfully tries to introduce Driss to symphonic music, but he only laughs at the melodies from the advertisement. Instead, he turns on dance music and throws himself into a dance, infecting the guests with his fervor. The evening ends with a disco. While putting the boss to bed, Driss opens a letter from Eleanor with her photo. The girl's appearance is very much to Philip's liking. She writes that she will soon be passing through Paris and offers to make an appointment. Driss also finds time to sort out Eliza's problem. Philip is very worried before the date, chooses an outfit for a long time, arrives in advance, then tries to relieve the anxiety with alcohol, but in the end he can't stand it and runs away before the girl arrives. Driss at this time comes to work with his mother, who has to earn a living as a cleaner. He sees a woman finish her shift and leave, but does not dare to talk to her. Besides, the boss is just calling with a request to pick him up. Men run away from exciting new meetings. I take to the sky on a private plane. Philip hands Driss an envelope, 11,000 euros with the sale of his first painting. The flights continue, but this time Philip invites the assistant to try a paraglider, He does not immediately agree to such madness, but in the end he does not miss this opportunity. Returning to the mansion, Driss is surprised to meet a troubled brother inside, who found out the employer's address at the employment center and came for help. He has problems with the law again, now more serious. Philip sees that Driss is immersed in family problems and asks about Adam. It turns out that this is his cousin, and Driss's mother is actually his aunt. Driss himself is actually called Bakari. His real parents live in Senegal, and as a child they gave him to a family of childless relatives who lived in Paris. But then the aunt was able to give birth to children, and after the death of her uncle, she gave birth to other men. Philip offers to take care of his family and leave his job. He agrees and soon quits. He says goodbye to the servants, and it turns out that Ayana and Magali have been leading the guy by the nose all this time. The girl is not interested in men at all. Driss leaves the mansion accidentally discovering that Philip has changed the photo to hide his illness from Eleanor. Well, the new assistant, who is being hired to replace Driss, makes Philip sad. A man grows a beard and suffers from emotional breakdowns. Nothing pleases him. Driss returns to his native sleeping area and solves Adam's problems. Having flashed his erudition at the interview, he gets a job as a driver in a transport company. Philip is getting worse and Yana calls for help from a former assistant. Men drive a wheelbarrow through Paris at night, running into adventures. This is the very scene from the beginning of the story. After being escorted by police officers to the hospital, they drive through France to meet the sunrise on the North Sea coast. Driss shaves Philip and again takes advantage of his helplessness for the sake of jokes. They arrive at a restaurant, where an unsuspecting Philip learns that Driss has arranged a date with Eleanor for him. At parting, he also returns the stolen Fabergé egg to him. The girl comes and Philip, who can no longer escape, does not hold back tears of happiness and gratitude. By the way, this story is based on real events. The real Philip happily married for the second time and even had 2 daughters, and Driss opened a business and also brings up 3, and they are still close friends. As always, look for the title of the movie in the description of the video, but in the meantime, tell me in the comments if you have a friend who knows how to get you out of the routine and make you feel the taste of life again. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel and like it so that cool stories come out as often as possible.